We're on Taharot, Perek Tet Mishnah Vav. 6th Mishnah in the 9th chapter of Masechet Taharot. This Mishnah is actually quite complicated. We're going to have Girsa issues as well. Girsa means the actual language, the words that appear in the Mishnah. We're going to have Girsa issues and actually understanding issues, as we'll see, because a word can mean one of two things. Says the Mishnah, Aminiach Zeitav Bagag Ligar Geram. Okay, the first three words we know. If you leave your zaitim, your olives, on your roof, Ligar Geram. So the gargaram, let's look at the word gargar. It can be one of two things. A garger is a berry, a grain, a heap of pebbles. So normally, remember, when we saw our olives, when you leave your olives, you leave them to become one big glob, one big mush. You're going to make that. You leave this. You take your olives. You put them in your basket from the tree. You take them from the basket and you put it in this big pot or whatever, this big vat. You take it in the vat and you let it ferment. You let it ripen. And then it oozes juice and becomes one big blob. And then that's when that big blob you take and you crush to make olive oil. Sometimes you grind it and sometimes you just crush it as it is. That's my understanding of the olive oil making process. Here, now what are you doing? Ligargaram. So if gargar means berry, well, it could mean one of two things. But if gargar means berry, it means you are leaving your olives in order to eat them individually. Ligargaram. So that's why it means, we said a berry, a grain, or heap of pebbles. But it really means a single berry. So you leave your olives, says the Bartanura, la'asot me'em gargarim, to make from them gargarim. Now the reason I say it can be one of two things is because also the word, let's go back to the diastro, the gargarim, a gargaran is a glutton or a bibber, someone who stuffs his face. The gargaram could mean you leave olives in order to stuff your face with them. Could be one of those two things. But the Bartanura says the first one. Lasodimim gargurim, to make berries. Kolomar, meaning lasot shekol garger v'garger yityabesh b'chama, that each berry would dry v'yitnaged. You want it to dry out. Remember, what's our question? Our question is, when do these olives become mekabel tuma? When do I consider the juice that oozes out of them liquid that I want in order to make it mekabel tuma? So, if I want the whole thing to dry out, I don't like the liquid at all. Why? Because the more liquid comes out, the slower it will dry out. And therefore, says the Mishnah, afilu heim rum ama, even if they're stacked in ama high, and like the top dries out, and then but the bottom layers are globs and totally wet. Nonetheless, einan muksharin. They are not mukshar. They're not considered prepared the kabel tuma. I don't want that liquid. I want it to dry, and therefore they are not prepared to be mekabel tuma. Says the Bartanura, mikol makom. Nonetheless, since they're all wet, even though nonetheless, since I wanted it to dry out, einam muksharim. They're not mukshar. They're not ready to be kabel tuma. V'yesh mefarshim. Some say the word ligargara means limatkan b'chama, to sweeten them in the sun. Okay, so that you're going to add salt and then you're going to eat them, and therefore, since they don't become sweet at one time. Nonetheless, he says ligargaram, klomar. You're taking each individual berry as it becomes sweet. Rishon, v'yochlen, each at a time. Now, I don't know about how this works, but if you want them to sweeten up, then you want the liquid. Okay, and vigorsim, and they have the girsa. See the word gorsim? They have the girsa. Afilu em rom amahare elu muksharim. They are machshir. Why? Because if you want to sweeten your olives, then you want the juice. If you want to dry your olives, you don't want the juice. So, all this, of course, depends on what your girsa is. So remember, here we have the girsa of einan muksharin. So let's look at one. This is Ktav Yad A of Parma. In Italy, Bibliotheca Palatina. You can look it up in Parma. What does it say? Haminech zeitim bagat legar guram. Afilu rum ama einam muksharim. But if you go to that same library in Parma and you look at the manuscript 3173, you look it up there and you read the same Mishnah, okay? Hameniach zeita bagat legargaram afilu rum ama hare elu muksharim. They are mukshar. So is it or are they not? See, now it says elu muksharim. Let's go back to our Mishnah. It says einam muksharim. Is it elu or einam? That's a pretty important girsa issue. Yes or no? So all the Mefarshim say, well, it depends on how they're going to interpret the Mishnah based on the girsa. If it's einam muksharim, then I have to say the gargaram means to dry them out. If I say hare elu muksharim, that means I have to say the gargaram means to sweeten them. So we're going to use the word interpretation in order to answer the girsa problem. Which girsa is correct? I don't know. You got to ask a Talmud scholar. Says the Mishnah. Netanamba ba'it sheyilku. You put them in the house. Sheyilku. Let's look at the Bartura. What does sheyilku mean? Sheyitma'achu v'yitpa'atzu. You leave in your house so that you become soft and burst open. I'm not an olive producer, so I guess that happens. You left him in the house. Okay. And you're in the future. You intend to bring them up to the roof. Or you put them on the roof in order that they open up, that they soften and open up, or you will open them. They are mukhshar. You want the liquid in order for them to ferment. You're going to leave them on the roof. I don't know why. Again, if you know more about the olive producing process, this would probably be useful to you. Clearly, everyone in that time knew it because they all had they harvested their olive trees and they all had to be part of this process. Unless you left him in the house, though, until you're able to guard or post a guard post on your roof, because you couldn't leave your olives out like that. Somebody would climb on your roof and steal them. Or you intend to take them somewhere else, then einam mukhsharim. Remember, we said as long as the harvest is not done, you want to bring more and more olives, it's not mukhshar. So here also, you put them in the house, but that's not the end. You intend to take them up to the roof, or you're going to take them somewhere else, and therefore you don't want them to start to ferment now. You don't want the liquid oozing out of it, and therefore they're not mukhshar, the kabel tuma. We'll stop here. As we always do, we'll dedicate our learning to memory of my father, Rav Simcha ben Yitzchak Kalman. Maybe we'll see the name of my father. Here we go. Make it a great day.